Well, welcome to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. I tell you, we're so excited to be with you guys on this evening. I tell you, it's just been a joy sharing these last couple of weeks on deal breakers versus things that break the deal. And so we've just been having a ball sharing these nuggets with you guys the last couple of weeks. And we're excited possibly coming to a close this week with the last few nuggets for the deal breakers versus things that break the deal. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to jump right into it because we know this 30 minutes, it fly by so fast. But again, we're excited. We want to welcome you all to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And we've just been talking about deal breakers versus things that break the deal. Somebody asked, how did you guys come up with that? And that actually came up from one of the radio interviews that we had last month in July, where one of the callers asked about a deal breaker. And so my response to her was, there are deal breakers, and then there are some things that break the deal. And so from that statement came these last couple of episodes, and it's just been phenomenal. It's been outstanding. It's just been life-changing. And we're just excited to be sharing with you guys some things you may have thought about, some things you may not have thought about. Again, we're not telling you that these are your deal breakers. We're not telling you that these are things that break the deal for you. All we're simply saying is that for some, these can be deal breakers, and for others, these can be things that break the deal. But ultimately, either way you look at it, sometimes it's neither nor a deal breaker nor something that breaks the deal. Mm-hmm. And so we're just excited. We just want to give you guys some information, something to look at, something to now talk about with your spouse or with your intended, and so that you can begin to look at some things that you may experience or be experiencing and know how to handle it and move forward. And so, sweetheart, let's give some of the statistics that we always share.
Okay. Stepdads are more common than stepmoms.
Mm-hmm.
40% of the married couples with children in the U.S. are forming blended families right now.
Wow.
And 75% of divorcees will remarry. 65% will bring children from a previous union.
So the first statistic is stepdads are more common than stepmoms. That's huge. But we can see that because most times, you know, the dad is coming into the relationship when the mom already have kids. So we can see that dynamic. Then it says 40% of the married couples with children in the U.S. are forming blended families right now. So think about that. Right now, as we're speaking, 40% of married couples with children here in the U.S. are forming blended families right now. So every second, every minute, every hour, we're experiencing increase with blended families. And then the last statistic was 75% of divorcees will remarry, with 65% bringing children from a previous union. Those are some huge, alarming statistics. And we just, again, we share these statistics for information, for understanding, and so that we as a blended community, we can kind of curtail some things that's going on and build upon these relationships. And so let's give a recap of the last 2 weeks, what we talked about.
So you just want me to go down the points?
Just go down the points.
We talked about wanting children, if you want children, and if so, you know, how many, and if not, why not? We discussed, can we discuss money? How is it earned, spent, saved, handled? Who will handle the finances and the bills? Will we share bank accounts, or how will this be all set up? Can we talk about sex, the frequency, preference, fantasies, masturbation, pornography, expectations, bad sex, low sex, high sex drive? We talked about how much time will we spend with family, parents, sibling, in-laws, cousins. household chores, who will clean, wash clothes, take out trash, etc. How often is cleaning going to be done? You know, addictions, drinking, smoking, drugs, sex, pornography, workaholic, you know, any type of addictions, abuse. We talked about the physical, mental, verbal abuse. Talked about fidelity, cheating, open marriage, swinging, laziness, not wanting to work, do not want to help out around the house, don't want to help out with the children, just don't want to do anything. We talked about being too needy, codependent. And we ended with lacks self-control, can't stop yourself from doing the things that you shouldn't do, especially in the hard and rough times, and then having sound judgment, level-headedness.
And so, again, if you miss any of this, we shared this on the last 2 weeks on In the Blender. So we encourage you to go to our page, look up those videos. Also on YouTube, they're uploaded on YouTube as well. And so it's just some exciting information. You're going to get your laugh on. You're going to make you things that say, the whole 9 yards. And so we discuss a litany of things. You want to make sure that you go and view them so you can come up to date. But tonight we're going to talk about
what we're going to pick up.
We're going to pick up with insecurity. And so this is huge in the blended family. And it's huge because a lot of times, well, for the most part, you're going to be dealing with the other parent or the other spouse if there's children involved. And so there's a lot of insecurities that come with that because people can't move past you being in a relationship with somebody before them.
Yeah, some can't.
Some can't. And so that we found that that's huge in the blended family because you're going to have to talk with that baby daddy. You're going to have to talk with that baby mama. You're going to have to discuss some things. And some things you guys discuss don't necessarily have to do with the other spouse. It's all about the child. But because you may have to spend a little quality time or conversate a little more than normal at times, a lot of insecurities can be there. And so for some people, that's a deal breaker. Because you're not going to be dealing with that person. You with me now. And if you with me, then you don't need to deal with them. I know y'all got a baby together. I know y'all got kids together. But guess what? That's history. No, that's not history. That's the present. That's the past, the present, as well as the future.
Yeah, as children's involved.
As long as children are involved, you're always going to have to deal with that individual. Now, there's a level of dealing with them, and there's a frequency of dealing with them. But understand there's always going to be some type of communication that may be needed as relates to that child. And so we talk about that insecurity. We're talking about that insecurity because you need to understand that guess what? You got that person now. You're with that person. One of the things that we did, even when we got together, when we got married, was I sat down with the girl's dad and I said, listen, you have free course to come over. There was no insecurity because I knew this was the woman that I was spending the rest of my life with. And so I wasn't concerned about that. My concern was that we allowed the girls to have access to both of us. That was my concern. And so because of that, we built a relationship, he and myself, we built a relationship that was like no other. I mean, it kind of blew people's mind when they saw us together and how we communicated. Like, how do these two guys, both of them, you know, having an experience, and then but they can still deal with each other as if like they were old friends. And so it's important to understand that you don't have to be insecure. You don't have to let your past dictate your future because a lot of insecurity comes from past experiences. And so in the blended family, there's no room for insecurities. Right. There's no room for. Let's talk about your view on
but it
this,
it's also I think it's important for that spouse to help the other spouse not be insecure. You know, because sometimes a spouse can do stuff that makes that person a little insecure.
Like what?
Like they may, say for instance, they may talk nicer to that ex-spouse than they talk to, to you. Or they may, argue with you, but you don't ever hear them argue with that ex-spouse.
You talking about me?
You know, yeah, we dealt with that. We dealt with that, and there was times where I thought that, like, you know, conversations that I would hear things that she would say. I'm like, oh wow, he was nice to her, but if I would have said that same exact thing, you would have chewed my head off. So I think it's very important for that spouse to help that, you know, that spouse not to be insecure, or make it easier and don't give them a reason to feel insecure. And now, like, for me, it didn't make me feel insecure. It just made me mad, because I was like, wait a minute.
So
how you going to be so nice to this person, but then you say whatever you want to say to me?
So let's
that
go.
Seemed a little opposite, little
But let's go back though. Why weren't you insecure?
Why wasn't I?
Wasn't you
well, for one, because I already knew that I had you. Secondly, I knew who I was, so I didn't have to be insecure.
But what's the third thing?
You tell it if you know. I don't know what the third thing is. Because you didn't?
No, the third thing was the fact
What was it?
I wasn't going to give her the power.
Well, that's what I was saying, because when that spouse has to play a part in that.
No. What I'm saying is, I wasn't going to give my son's mother that power over me.
Right, but that was helping the situation, though.
Yeah, but it's important. It's important to bring clarity.
Okay.
It's important to understand that I wasn't going to give her power to control my emotions and my feelings as related to us and my son. And so there were things that she would try to do and say to try to get me off center that I just wouldn't play a part in. So while it seemed like I was being nice and it seemed like I wasn't allowing things to bother me, I just wasn't letting her get the power that she wanted to have.
Okay, right. But back then you didn't explain that, though.
No. Yes, early on, I didn't explain it, but yeah, I mean, you got the explanation real soon after that. But starting off, you didn't know that was my plan on what I was doing. But I wanted to make that clear, because there are some individuals that may do something that looks similar, but that's not what they're doing. They're really like having a good time with that person, and they're really having a secret relationship with that person, which can generate insecurities. But for me, it wasn't any of that. It was the mere fact that I wasn't going to give you that power over me, because sometimes you have relationships, past relationships, especially when it involves children, where that one parent tries to play that child against the other parent. And they do things to try to keep that relationship going. And so you got to put a line in the sand and say, hey, we're not going to play those games. We're not going to fuss. We're not going to fight. We're not going to argue. We're not going to call each other names. And so it took a lot of inner strength within me to say, you know what, I'm not going to participate in that. Well, on the outside, when you was looking at it early on, it was like, this, I know he ain't, what, if I would have, he would have, I can't believe. And so it was important, you know, but at the end of the day, I just didn't want to relinquish that power to her. And so we want to make sure that you first, as the spouse that's dealing with the other parent, that you don't present an atmosphere that creates insecurity. And for the other spouse, that you understand that you're the winner, that you already got the prize. And so there's no need to be insecure. And so that's what we want to talk. We want to start out with that insecurity. The second one was habitual lying. This is big, because you got some folks, they just lie about everything.
And don't even have to.
Don't even have
you
to.
Be like, you said that for what? You know, I mean, for real, sometimes, you know, with a habitual lie, you got somebody lying for just like no reason.
Like we had,
like, it's like, so what was you lying? What was that for?
We had one guy, this guy, he would say some stuff, and you'd be like, dude, what? Like, that don't make sense. Like, how you get locked up on Friday and you out on Saturday morning? You know, it's stuff like somebody threw you over the bridge and you walking around. But you know, you just got you got issues like that going into relationships where a person would just lie. And so it's important to understand. Let me tell you something. They are going to show you some things early on early on before you say I do and I will, that's going to confirm whether this person is going to be trustworthy or whether this person is going to be shady. And so we just bringing up these things because for some people, a liar is a deal breaker. For some people, a liar breaks the deal. And for some, they tolerate it. So again, we're not saying that this is your deal breaker. We're not saying for you that this is something that break the deal.
Right.
We just want to bring to light some things that we know people deal with, especially in a blended family, that we have to address so that you can know how to handle it, so that you can know how to move forward. And so we talked about insecurity, habitual lying. They don't like your children in your family. Yeah, that's big. They don't like your children in your family. Listen, if they don't like your children, they don't like your family, that's a red flag. You don't even have no business going even further with that. They don't like your children, they don't like your family, or your children don't like them and your family don't like them. You need to find out why.
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing right there.
Because that's important.
Question.
There's some things that your family see that you don't see. Because you're wrapped up in that relationship. You're wrapped up in that the arrows. Not the agape, you wrapped up in the arrows. And so because your nose wide open, like the folks used to say when we was growing up, your nose wide open, you can't see real clearly. And so it's important to understand what is it that your family is seeing that you don't see. There's some things that we've seen in certain instances. And so it's important to make sure that you get that information. And there's some things that people saw. Now let me say this. Just because your family see it, that don't make it real.
Yeah.
There were some things that they thought they saw about me, but guess what? It wasn't true. There were some things people thought they saw about me. It wasn't true at all. But that's because I had a unique disposition. I wasn't a person that went along with the program. I didn't go along with the flow of things. And so certain things I did just looked kind of contrary to what other people wanted to see me do. But at the end of the day, when they found out how much I love my wife and how much I love my family and how committed I was to this union, because again, this isn't a contract. This is a covenant.
Right.
And so we're addressing these things because a lot of people come into this marriage or this blended family dynamic as a contract. This is not a contract. This is a covenant. This is to death do us part. And so we're committed to making sure that we're here until death do us part. Yep. And so we're sharing this so that you can know that, hey, guess what? I need to know why that person don't like my child. Like for me, at first it seemed like I had a problem with kids. When in actuality, I didn't have a problem with kids. I had a problem because I didn't have mine. And so I had to learn how to move past that hurt and pain so that now I can embrace others. So you need to ask, why do a person, you need to know why a person do the things they do. Don't just assume that they do things and you have the reason why they do it. Ask why.
Yeah, because I didn't find out that till
years
later.
Years later. It was something we never talked about. It was like, it wasn't a taboo, but it was a hush-hush issue with us. It was just something we didn't talk about.
No, it was something. I'm
talking about something I didn't talk about.
You didn't talk about.
No, but I'm saying we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, but because I didn't know how to talk about it.
Right.
I didn't know how to relate, you know what I'm saying, my hurt as related to that part of our life and how to move beyond that until I had to deal with myself. And so you need to know these things. Yeah. Why don't you like my family? Why don't you like my children? Why don't my family like you? Why don't my children like you? And because sometimes kids don't like their new spouse because they so stuck on you being with their other parent.
Right.
And so it has nothing to do with that individual. It has everything to do with the fact that they want to see their natural mom and their natural dad together.
Yeah.
And so
the bottom line to that is just finding out why.
Exactly.
Before you make any type of decisions or whatever, you always want to know why.
And just knowing.
And yeah.
Yeah, you know, G.I. Joe used to say, knowing is half the battle. So you want to know why. Also, decision making. Making decisions and choices for the family without you knowing. That's huge. You don't know how many times we've heard people talk about their spouse, their blended spouse making all these decisions about the family, where we gonna live, what we gonna do, how we gonna do it, all these major decisions for the family without even discussing what's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you buying a home for the family and your spouse don't even want to live in that neighborhood. Or you buying a specific car and they don't even like, they don't even like it. They don't want a 2-door, they want a 4-door. You want a 2-door because that suits your ego. And so these are important, making all type of business investments, things of that nature. What are you doing that you're not sharing that? And why are you doing things without sharing that information?
Right.
What you guys say about that? Because she don't play that, so it ain't too much to say about that. but
we've had our times. We've had cases and
with jobs,
stuff that has happened.
But no purchases, no things of that nature.
No, but choices and decisions that could have been deal breakers.
Very, very much so.
So,
and that's why that's down there, because again, we share us. We share what we've gone through, what we've experienced, how we overcome. I remember one time I had this job. I mean, this job was sweet, and I had an offer. I had an offer to take on a business venture, and my wife was like, "I don't really know." And I saw.
I said, "I don't think you should do that."
Yeah, you don't.
I don't really know. No, I say, I don't think you should do that.
Yeah, but you ain't say don't do it.
I said, I don't think you should do that. That's saying
that's
don't
the way
do
I
it.
interpret.
That's saying don't do
that's
it.
That's the way I interpret what she said.
You should do that.
But I took it, and man, let me tell you something. About 6 months later, it's about 6 months later, I got a phone call, and the person was like, this is not going to work, and I mean, I lost it. I mean, I flipped. I mean, it was done. I look like I need to be in a straitjacket.
Yeah, but this was probably after about 3 times of doing that, though. This wasn't like on the first time. You had done that, like, I think once or twice before.
Yes.
So that's why you were so livid that time, because it was like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to step out, and then you had did it again, and that's when it was like, so it was a couple times.
And let me say this, all the things matched up for it to be a success. It wasn't like, this was something that I jumped into and it was sketchy or it didn't look like, everything was there for it to be a success. And it was like, man, I can't believe I did this. When she said, no, I don't think so. Let's think about it, whatever. And it was like, I lost it because here again, as a husband, you want to build the trust with your wife. You want to build that comfortness to let her know that, hey, I can trust your decision making. You're not just going to be making some off the wall decisions that hurt the family. And I don't care how big a dream that you have, there's some things that you do that also can hurt the family. And let me say this, there's some things that you do that just fail. Right. Not because you wasn't good at it, not because you didn't give effort, but because
it didn't work out.
It didn't work out because that wasn't God's plan for you. There's some things that you can do that may work out that you'll get stuck in, and that's not the plan that God has for you, and you won't fulfill the plan that he has for your life. And so that's important. Ricky said,
yeah. If you are together and you love each other, you have to talk things over.
Awesome, Ricky. You have to talk things over. You have to. I don't care how big it is. I don't care how small it is. You have to talk things over. And that's something that if you're not a person that's used to talking things over with your spouse, start with the little stuff.
Yep.
Till you build up with that comfortableness to be able to, because sometimes some people just can't talk about certain things.
But they need to.
And so we encourage you to start somewhere.
Affect
Exactly.
Somewhere down the line, just like even when you go with the line stuff.
Yes.
You know, some people just for some reason just don't seem like they can tell the truth, or don't want to tell the truth because they don't want to hurt that person, not understanding that lying about it, and then when the truth comes out, it's worse.
Exactly.
So you may as well tell the truth in the beginning and deal with whatever, you know. It's better to tell the truth and deal with whatever come with that than to lie and the truth come out, and then you got to deal with the, you know, consequence that come with that. So
because now you're taking bricks out your wall that you got to rebuild.
Yep.
And so that's important. Abandonment. Abandonment. For some, that's a deal breaker. For others, that break the deal. What do you mean by abandonment? I'm not just talking about leaving a home and not coming back. Some people leave a home and they still at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got some folks that you didn't even know that person was like that. You didn't know that's their MO, that's their method of operation. They leave home. They're there, but they don't communicate with you. They don't talk with you. They don't show no affection. They don't show no love. They don't have no input. They're just there. And so that's big, because some people like affection. Mm-hmm. Some people like attention. And so you got that person that's there in the home, and they don't want to talk with you. They go to work, they come home. They go to work, they come home. For you, it's almost like you're not even there at all. Mm-hmm. And then you got some who you don't even know when they're coming back home. Yeah. And so these are things that we're sharing with you guys, because for some of you, there's some signs that you saw before you said I do. There's some things that you, listen, if you're intended on being married, especially a blended family, and you have the ability to talk with that family member or that former spouse, and they mature enough to have that conversation, you better find out some things. Mm-hmm. Because there's some things that you're going to find out that's going to make that should ultimately assist you in making a decision that can ultimately change your life. Yeah. Because for most people, there's always two sides to a story. It's very rare that there is one side. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times when people share their story, they never tell what they did. Yeah. They never tell how they want you to know. They only tell you what they want you to know. There's a rarity that what they're telling you is all there is to know. Mm-hmm. That's a rarity. It's not many people like that, because most people want to put their best foot forward. They want to make themselves look good and the other person look bad. And so they don't want to tell how they squandered money. They don't want to tell how they were abusive and how they were neglectful and how, they were harmful and they were all these different things that they did. They don't want to discuss that. Mm-hmm. They only want to tell about what that person did to make themselves look good. And so we're sharing these things because these things are valid. They're very key for your success in the blended family. Yep. And then this important one, is vision.
No vision. No vision or plan for the family.
Yeah, vision. And the Bible clearly says without the vision, the people perish. And you wonder why your family perishing? Because there is no vision. We have 2 vision boards in our bedroom. Mm-hmm. 2 vision boards in our bedroom. Why? Because we want to constantly put before us the plan and the purpose that God has set before us. Why? Because we want to make sure that what we're going towards is what we're supposed to be going towards. Right. And if you don't have a plan, if you don't have no vision, then guess what? You'll never be able to reach those things.
Ricky said, my father never came back home, but I still do love him to this day.
And that's awesome. Wow. One of the viewers was talking about a situation when he was a child. How, dad left and never came back. But guess what? That's a valuable lesson for you, because there are some things that from that you take on and say, you know what? I'm not going to be there. Yep. I don't care how rough things get. I don't care how hard things get. I'm not leaving my family. I'm not walking away. Yep. And so we don't look at these things as downers. Right. We look at these things as lessons learned. Yep. Because if you don't learn it, you'll repeat it. Yep. And so you have to learn.
Unlearn is how it go?
A lesson unlearned is a lesson repeated. Exactly. And so you learn from that lesson. And even if you don't have all the details, there's still some things you can learn.
Yep.
You can learn the effect of how that leaving affected that woman and how it affected those children. And so because of that, guess what? I'm never going to put my family in that position. I'm never going to put my family in that position where now the mother of my children are hurting. And my children are hurting because I'm not there. I don't care how hard things get. Guess what? There's a McDonald's, there's a Wendy's, there's a Burger King. You can work 2 of those in order to make things. There's many ways you can get out here and make money to be a success for your family. Because success isn't always equated in money. And I know that we put a big value on what we're making and how we're bringing things in and what we have, what we drive, where we live, and, you know, what we dress in, and all those things. Those are just some of the signs of success.
Right.
But that don't mean nothing if you and your wife not communicating. That don't mean anything if your children don't respect you and honor you. That don't mean anything if your house is not a home.
What you used to say, you never wanted to be a public success and a private failure.
Never. No. No. And too many times, thank you, sweetheart. That's big because a lot of people are their public success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they look like they got it together. They look like everything going, but really they're failures. There's no love. There's no love. There's no communication. Their family don't want to be around them. Their children don't like them. Their spouse don't even want to be with them. And so this is important, you know. And we hear a lot about that. We've seen it. We've seen it personally with people we know that paint a picture like everything's everything, and it's really not. And one of the things I always say to my wife from day one, I want to have what people think they see.
Right.
I want to have that. What do you mean? If you think you see a blessed marriage, guess what? I want that blessed marriage.
Right.
If you think you see prosperity, I want that prosperity. Yeah. If you think you see joy and happiness in our marriage, I want that joy and happiness. Mm-hmm. I don't just want you to see things. I want to possess all those good things you think you see, because I don't want to be a fraud in your sight.
Right. And that don't mean you're perfect. You won't have disagreements. It just means that you want to be what people see.
Exactly. Listen, we're out of time, but we're not out of message. Let's give our final thoughts, sweetheart.
I'll give that next week because that's kind of long to read.
No, we're going to give it now.
Okay, well, did you read it?
Always remember that every family is different and may have different challenges.
So every blended family challenge should be addressed individually depending upon the challenge.
The personalities are different, so you want to use measures that work for you.
One of the main things you should always do is keep the lines of communication open in the blended family.
Parents should always show unity in front of the children, even if they don't secretly agree with each other.
Showing that you are unified diffuses the enemy's attacks in the blended family.
Lastly, you want to always demonstrate patience.
Having patience to work through the difficult challenges in blended family will bring about a happy blended family.
And remember, you became a blended family because you chose to.
Now choose to be successful.
Listen, we love you guys. We pray that you choose to be successful in this blended family, because there are people watching you, people that need to see success. Yeah. And so we encourage you guys to continue watching In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. We hope that you take these nuggets. Listen, make sure you go to our Facebook page, view the last 2 episodes so that you can come to pace. Also go to our YouTube channel, look at those as well. We love you guys. If you have any questions,
share.
Yes,
view and
share. If you have any questions, how do they reach us?
You can email us at weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Give it to them one more time.
weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
We thank you guys. We love you guys. And until next week.
Next Tuesday, 7:30.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.